So it's 8 pages, unfortunately, 34 questions, and each question is scored 0 to 5. Now, let me just quickly zoom in a little so you can see a slightly larger version of it as we go through. So we start with section 4, context of the organization. I'm not going to read through each one, but just enough to give you a feel for the process and how you go about it. So the questions are basically asking, against the standard, what is your business or organization doing against each one? So understanding the organization. Has the organization undertaken a review to determine fully the external and internal issues that are relevant to establishing the context of the organization? So, do you know what your business is about in respect to the energy management system? And only you can tell me what your business can do. So, I'll just, this slider sets a score between 0 and 5. So I'll just set each score to 4 as we go down through. Again, obviously, whatever it is for your business on that relative scale. And just to give you a bit of insight, a low score statement, previous partial review or new review started but little progress. High score, thorough high level review completed, formal report covering key external and internal issues, including intended outcomes for its energy management system. So that gives you an idea of what 0 should be and what a 5 should be. And that's repeated all the way down through. So next question. So each question, 1 to 34, we state the clause from ISO 50001 and the headline for that clause or section. So clause 4.1 is understanding the organization and its context. Clause 4.2, understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties. And then identify obligations for the next one because it's the same clause that we're investigating. So for question 2, has the organization undertaken a review to identify interested parties? Interested parties are also known as stakeholders, but the phrase interested parties is a more considered a broader definition. Stakeholders could obviously be those with a direct stake in the business, but also staff, customers, etc. are considered broader stakeholders, and the umbrella term is interested parties. So to understand their relevant needs and expectations and decide which will be addressed through the energy management system. So have you looked at all your interested parties, said, are they involved in the energy management system? And then if so, what is their involvement and expectation? So for a low score, previous partial or new review stated, but little progress. So basically you said you do something, but you haven't done anything yet. A high score statement, thorough high level review completed with a formal report covering the key areas, including identifying interested parties, understanding their needs, and deciding which will be addressed. So basically we're saying, have you done a full review? And to get a maximum score, yes, I've done a full review. I've documented it, made a report, and put a plan together for how it will be addressed through the energy management system. So again, I'll say a 4. 4.2, obligations. Does the organization have access? Has it determined and taken into account up-to-date legal and other requirements relating energy efficiency, use, and consumption? Low score, little evidence of this, yes. And a process or processes is also established to maintain and review these. So an important part of all ISO is that you are addressing your obligations, in particular your legal obligations through the ISO. Systems like 14,001 would perhaps be a more direct, where you have environmental obligations, certainly legal obligations, and 45,001 health and safety, where you also have direct legal obligations to your staff. So again, I'll set that to a 4. The scores are defaulted from the last time I went through this because of cookies on the website. So if you do go through the full questionnaire, you should find the previous scores you've entered saved, simply because if you've accepted the cookies for the website, it just saves your previous entries. Question 4, determining the scope of the energy management system. Has action been taken to identify the scope and boundary of the energy management system? So a low score, little action taken to identify the scope and boundary. High score, scope and boundary is documented and made available. This process included considerations of issues of context and the needs and expectations of relevant interested parties. The scope is within the authority to control its energy performance. So quite a big statement here. It's asking, has your organization defined what exactly the energy management system is designed to control? What's the boundary? Is it simply your one factory unit and the boundary is that factory? Are you multiple factories spread over a geographical area? Is that the scope and boundary of the energy management system? It doesn't have to be your full organization, but it has to be very clear what exactly is included in the scope, but also that within the context of your organization, the energy management system certainly includes the bulk of the energy use within your organization. So 4, 5 there. Question 5, has the organization established an energy management system, including the processes needed and their interactions? So, have you done anything? Is there an energy management system in place? And do you have an energy management system that conforms to 50,001? This is sort of almost an umbrella question for the rest of these 34 questions. So if you have an energy management system and you're not sure it conforms to ISO 50001, well, certainly read the rest of the document. But if you have a good functional energy management system, but you don't call it 50001, you could score fairly highly on this question. So that does it for section 4, context of the organization. The questions do take thinking about. If you're involved directly in these areas within your business, you should probably know fairly quickly, kind of feel for where you are in terms of 0 to 5. And then we just simply have a section total here. And then we move on to the next page. And again, leadership, important topic, any ISO. I'll plug through 4. Top management involvement. Has the organ established a policy statement? Roles and responsibilities, have they been assigned? And again, a total for section 5. Just 3 questions, but 3 significant questions about implementing an ISO policy there. So 12 out of 15. Next. Planning. And understanding that the necessary planning and processes are in place, including risk reviews and indicators. So there's quite a bit to planning. Risks and opportunities register, very important for all ISO standards. Question 9, question 10, again, continuing risks and opportunities and how to evaluate actions. Energy review. Has the organization determined the method and criteria for an energy review? So starting ISO 50001 requires a full energy review. This could be an ESOS report, but this should also be an annual review. But in order to establish some of the baseline indicators which are required, so what is your business using in 2019 and what is your plan to reduce from that level? So very important, start with an energy baseline review, if you like, and then energy reviews year on year or at the frequency determined by your management system. Energy performance indicators. So establish how much energy you use per item produced. So trivial example, if you're a car factory, how much energy per car? If you're making widgets, how much energy per widget? If you're making cables, how much energy per meter or per 1,000 meters? As long as it's a reasonable balance. If you're creating thousands of small products, it might be worthwhile grouping it into batches or containers of product. Energy baseline has a, so we talked about the energy review. This is the output of it, the energy baseline. Have you created a baseline energy use and normalized it? So this is, for perhaps a given volume of product, this is what your baseline is, and this is what you'll be looking year on year to reduce to become more energy efficient. Objectives, energy targets, planning objectives. So does the organization have energy management system objectives at relevant functions and levels? So this is as much who's responsible for the objective, what functions, i.e. is it the site engineer, is it the manager, is it the maintenance technician? Who is responsible for the objectives of the energy management system, and are they clear? Action plan. Has the organization established action plans that are consistent? So this is the direction, this is for a particular energy use, what is the plan for that system? Planning for collection of energy data. Has the organization defined and implemented plans to collect the key characteristics? So if you've determined an energy process, energy collection, and KPIs or energy performance indicator, how are you collecting that data to know what the answer should be? So this is the regular collection and measurement of data from your process to say, okay, my process has used 10,000 kilowatts and I've produced 10 units. And that is my energy performance. Section 7, support, understanding that the necessary competent resources are in place and there is awareness and documents. So quite a broad area, but this is about the people involved, that there's the necessary competence review, that they are capable of undertaking the tasks they've been assigned, awareness of the energy management system and the goals, and the documentation needed to support it. So first one, has the organization provided adequate resources? So including human, specialized skills, technology for establishing it. So firstly, is there enough staff to manage the system? Is the technology available to make measurements of the system? Low score, limited resources available. High score, evidence of effective resourcing, including any external resources. So high score, yes, you've thrown everything at it. That's necessary. Low score, you haven't done anything about it. Competence. Has the organization taken the necessary steps to determine the competence of persons? So Are the people trained to do it? This is where HR need to get involved. The competency matrix, so bolted on to your health and safety training. You have your energy management system training. What do the staff need to know in order to be able to achieve the energy management system? Awareness. Has the organization promoted awareness of the energy management system? So like any ISO, it should be embedded throughout the organization, and all staff within the organization should be aware that the energy management system exists, that you have targets. So this is how do you communicate this system? Notice boards, company intranet, bulletins. So all important things to evidence. Communication. How has the organization determined the internal and external communications? So very similar to awareness, communication plans. How was it communicated, particularly to those that may not be directly involved in the system? So, and also internal and external. Key key thing there in the high score statement, information is consistent and dependable. So if you're creating reporting, which could be technical, it needs to be consistent across the organization. It needs to be clear and readily understood. Documented information. Has the organization maintained sufficiently controlled documented information as required and as determined necessary? So are you keeping results? Are you keeping minutes of meeting? Are you documenting what you have done in order to both implement the energy management system and the processes and operations that are affected by the energy management system? Next. So we're making progress now on page 5 of 8. Section 8, operation. An understanding of the operational planning, design processes, and procurement policies are appropriate. So, pick off a few. Has the organization determined planning and implemented control of the processes to meet the requirements? So, this is control of the energy management system, not the operational processes. That's question 23. This is control that the sufficient controls on the energy performance in order to be able to implement the next stage. So 4, operation plan have been checked, not been checked for implementation, operation planning. So top one is the system, and this is second 23 is the operation. Change control. Has the organization established process of implementation control of planned changes? So if you're changing your process or your system, what's the change control procedure? Who signs it off? Is energy efficiency at the heart of it? So processes established for the implementation and control of planned change, consequence of unintended changes and actions to mitigate any adverse effects. Risk register. Have you put your control through a risk register? Added line items. So this is where integration of the system, and actually reading the high score statement gives you a fairly good idea of what you need to be doing. Planning and control, outsourced significant energy use. Are outsourced processes related to controlled? Little evidence, comprehensive. So if there is something that you have a subcontractor or supplier doing for your business that requires significant energy use, what are you doing with that supplier in order to mitigate or control or reduce? Very important one, especially in terms of carbon management. ISO is specifically energy efficiency and actually doesn't mention carbon. But if you have an eye to carbon neutrality, issues like clause 8.1, control of outsourced significant energy use, critical, because that would be scope 3 for your business. Anyway, clause 8.2, design. Are you designing with energy efficiency in mind? Clause 8.3, lifetime energy performance. So when procuring energy products, are you looking at the lifetime energy use of that product? So high score, comprehensive assessment criteria over lifetime planned. Yeah, when you buy stuff, it can't be the cheapest. Can't be the cheapest over 3 years. It has to be the most energy efficient over the expected lifetime of that piece of plant or machinery. So, trivial example, if you're buying a new machine for turning metal, is that machine the most efficient over the next 20 years? Specification. Finally, on procurement, are you procuring with energy efficiency front and center on that specification? So in order to achieve 8.3, question 27, lifetime efficiency specification needs to be match. So give a 4 there. All suppliers are provided with specification form procurement evaluation is partly based on energy performance. So you're telling suppliers the criteria is balance between cost, energy efficiency, and lifetime efficiency. Next, page 6 of 8, performance evaluation, section 9 of the standard. And understanding that the necessary monitoring, measurement, reviews, audits, management. So this is the section on, are you looking at and monitoring the significant energy use within your business and reviewing it, considering it, auditing both the process for collecting the data and the data itself. So performance general evaluation and general. This established processes for monitoring, measurement, and performance evaluation and establish its energy performance and effectiveness. So what you're looking at is both the underlying process, but also the energy management system itself. Is it performing as you would expect? Compliance identified legal and other requirements. So again, we're coming back to one of the earlier points. Have all the legal obligations been met and that information provided for? Comprehensive evaluation taking place and at planned intervals. Internal audits. Are you doing internal audits of the system? Both of the system and of the results. So, the system itself says you shall do a review. Well, go check if people done the review and then check that the review is correct. Management review. Has the organized management review? So as with all ISO standards, senior management have to be directly involved in the process and participate in at least an annual management review of the energy performance and also the energy management system itself. Is the energy management system scope and context still the same year on year, and is that confirmed? Because you may expand the factory, you may buy another business, you may sell a business. All of this needs to be taken into account for the broader energy management system. Finally, last section of the standard, section 10, improvement, and understanding that the necessary continual improvement processes are appropriate. So this is the final step in the plan, check, do, act cycle. So is there processes to manage deviations and non-conformances? So if you do see something wrong in your process or you do see something wrong in the system itself, is there a process to identify it, register that something's wrong, assign it to somebody, and ensure that the deviation or non-conformance is cleared? So an NCR register, non-conformance register, is usually the vehicle for that. And then finally, the big one, Is there continual improvement of the energy management system and energy performance? So you're looking at both the performance of your business in terms of energy use per widget, or however you defined the performance for each significant energy use device, but you're also looking at improvements in the performance of the energy management system itself. And some people are concerned that, oh, we can't improve efficiency all the time. And I think the short answer to that is yes, you can. You can look at all aspects of your business, and once as this matures, as with any ISO standard, nobody would say their health and safety has reached the zenith of efficiency or their environmental policy have reached peak efficiency. There's always something more based on instances, new equipment, evolution of the business that can be improved year on year or period over period. And this is about involvement of everybody and all the standard to date. So page 8 of 8, it is quite a chunk, and it does hopefully drive a bit of thinking that you need to do something. So the results, adding up all of the 34 questions, 0 to 5, maximum score 170. We pulled out a score of 132. So what I have here, and some of the text is courtesy of British Standards Institute training. So if the total score is between 0 and 35, 36 to 70, 71 to 105, 106 to 140, and 141. So what was ours again? 132. So we're down here, fairly high in this level. Already have an energy management system. It may be that it's not very long in existence. So perhaps you're in year 1, year 2 of your process, but you have come a substantial way towards reaching the objectives and targets for ISO 50001 certification, and have that verified by an outside body. So, 4 out of 5, 80%. I think the idea is just to give you a feel for how close you are to achieving the best practice from ISO 50001. So I won't linger too long on that. If you want a complete copy of the GAP results, enter your email address. So I'll enter energyservices.com. .com. So and I'll just call this training data. Happy to submit the form. Yes, GDPR. And I'll press submit. So that's taken me to our page on ISO 50001, and it will send an email. So I'll just pause while that email comes through. So that email has come through as the results of the energy management system gap analysis. So you'll get an email from myself, and I sent it to myself. Hello, find below a summary of the ISO 50001 gap analysis as entered on Bryce Energy Services website. So again, you'll get your total score, 132 out of 170. You'll get your reference to the scores. So I entered training data, and then you'll see the same text describing the various bands of compliance, if you like, or alignment to the best practice standard for energy management. Little reminder, EMP is energy performance, ENMS is the energy management system itself. If you would like further help, there's some contact information. And then the scores that were entered for each of the under each of the individual sections, and for the questions 1 to 34. And just a bit of a disclaimer there. So that's the email you'll get if you fill out the details at the end of the form. Quite a long form. And that's the end of this part of the presentation. Thank you.